Offers are a very interesting beast. Some of them very simple. However, when you get into a complex offer negotiation, you have to kind of dissect it, take it apart in different pieces. And by and large, the best way to do that is communicate to the other agent if one is involved. We have your house for sale, for example. The buyer comes, takes a look, interested, and they just plop in an offer. No communication, no call from the agent, and the numbers are way off base. Part of this process is to be able to educate the agent, because obviously they didn't do any research as to the value of your property. If they came in at a really low price, it might really speak to the mindset of a buyer. We have to educate the buyer through the agent as to what the real value of your property is. So at that point in time, the discussion, the biggest negotiation is actually with the agent, not the buyer. So we spend an enormous amount of time breaking down the reasoning and motivation and the perception of the buyer as to why they chose that price for your property. Because what we don't want to do is start unintelligibly at two hugely different prices and try and navigate that all the way down, because typically it doesn't work. Sometimes we really have to make a big effort at educating the other side so that they can come right into our realm. If they don't do it very quickly, we want to make sure that we can X that off and say, listen, let's not waste our time. We send a message, they can either come back, or we just wait for somebody who's more reasonable. This is very, very important. If we go ahead and show them what the price range of homes like yours have sold for, and they can compare that data, if the agent hasn't done it for the buyer, with our list price, knowing essentially which range we're going to end up, it becomes a very simple process. It's when people have a certain mindset, buyer-wise and agent-wise, let's stab an offer in there. It doesn't matter at what price. Let's do a low ball, see what they say. They don't understand the psychological impact on how upset you might be as a homeowner to have an offer come in $50 or $80 or $100,000 less than what you're asking. And then you get upset, and it's just terrible. So this is one of the first things we want to do with an offer when it comes in, is educate that buyer and the buyer's agent if they're trying to insult us with a low ball. The other thing that we need to do is make sure that we're aware when an offer comes in of our landscape. How many new houses have come on the market similar to yours? We have to make sure what the prices are. We have to see if anything sold recently, because let's face it, we might have been on the market now for 2-3 weeks, maybe a month before you got an offer. We established the value of your property when we listed, but there may be new intel that we need to know about to be able to intelligently negotiate. If we have unrealistic expectations based on old data, we may be actually doing ourselves a disservice when negotiating. Once we receive an offer on your property, we will determine very, very quickly what type of negotiator this person is. Some people will come in at asking or close to asking price. They're very serious about your property. They don't want to insult you. That's a good indicator that they have high motivation for your property. They're just not testing the market. Obviously, you may tweak the price here and there a little bit. That's kind of like an easy negotiation. But then you have other people who you wonder, where are they coming from? The price is so ridiculous, it's just so out of the ballpark. You have to ask yourself, what data, if any, were they using? And therefore, if they're the type that need to negotiate back and forth, there are certain cultures that really like to negotiate. And if we're encountering one of those people, we have to be sure that we engage the negotiation in a manner that will have them continue to work with us, right? Let's say at the end of the day, you want $5,000 less than what your property is listed at. But somebody comes in $50,000 less than what your property is listed at. How do you bridge that gap? I mean, do you just tell them to take a hike? Do you go right to your price and say, that's it, buddy? What do you do? This type of negotiation is very, very challenging. And I'll tell you something, most of the time you can get these people to actually pay your price if you approach the strategy correctly. And part of that strategy is to have a very frank conversation with the agent, supply them with all the data that establishes and supports your value, indicate to them that we're not even going to counteroffer. You need to come back to us in this realm or we're done. Not interested in working with you. When you take that hard line, sometimes people will definitely jump in the game or totally out. And when they jump in the game, you realize that they were just playing and they were testing and they were goofing around just to see maybe what you would do. But with our hard line, they come right up and then end up getting typically what you're looking for. I hope that information's been useful for you. And if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help.